You're listening to Parasearch Radio, news, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio. Parasearch Radio, broadcasting to the UK and beyond.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. You're listening to Kerry Greenaway and Mark Manley on the Dark Mirror Paranormal Show, only on Parasearch Radio.
Good evening and welcome to the Dark Mirror Paranormal Show. It is Friday and we bring you your usual fun and frolics on a Friday. As usual, I'm joined in the studio by the lovely Mark Manley. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening. Yes, it is definitely Friday and not any other time of the week. It's definitely Friday.
Most definitely Friday.
Definitely.
And we also have the lovely Kaz Rooney in the studio. Good evening, Kaz.
Good evening.
Okay, so tonight we are talking big cats and black shucks.
Wow, you got it. You didn't say something else.
I got it right that time. Woohoo! 10 points to me, I think.
Show all about BBCs. Yes. Come on.
Oh my goodness, I've been saying it wrong all week, everybody. I've been saying it's black cats and big shucks. and a few wrong words in there as well. I'm sure you can imagine what they are without me telling you. So let's start with big cats. Mark, you've had a couple of personal experiences, haven't you, with black cats, big cats? I'm going to get this wrong all night.
Actually, one of them was a big black cat. So yes, yeah, technically.
It's a big black cat.
It was a big black cat. Yes, you know. But yeah, basically, in my days in Somerset, my daughter and one of my daughters and myself has seen like a black leopard type thing coming out of a hedge near my mum's because she lives in the middle of nowhere, which is only accessible via single track lanes. Coming back from there one night and this thing comes out of the hedge. My daughter says, "Oh, Dad, look!" You know, stopped the car. And what I thought was a Labrador coming out of the hedge wasn't, and it was a black cat about the size of a Labrador, and it walked down the bank halfway across the road and stopped and just sat down and stared at us. And the thing that got me about this particular black cat was its tail. The tail must have been as thick as at least twice as long as its body. And then it sort of it got bored with it, yawned, stretched, and then sauntered back, off across the road, up the bank and through the edge. And me and I think it was Becky just looked at each other and were like, "Wow, so cool."
So there's no mistaking what it was you saw, basically.
Well, no, it was broad daylight, so yeah.
It was right in front of you.
It was about 6 foot in front of the car.
That is not far. You're not going to go, "Oh, that's like a normal house pussycat," are you? When it's that
this
close?
Was definitely. We've got cats ourselves, and one, it's Lilo and Stitch is quite a big chap, but this was. It was bigger than Patch, and it was slightly bigger than the Black Labrador we've got at the moment. So it was big.
Yeah. So like I said, there's no mistaking that that's not. I mean, because that was one of the theories, wasn't it? That it was just a big house black cat that was roaming.
Oh no, it was definitely not somebody's. It wasn't a domesticated cat. Like I say, I've not seen a cat who's with a tail like that. This thing was massive. The tail had to be. Jesus, the tail must have been about 7 foot. 6, 7 foot long, and that's not exaggerating.
Wow, that's a long
tail. It was at least twice the length of his body. It's possibly about 5, 6 foot, but it was at least double the length of this thing's body.
Mm. Okay, well, sightings of big cats in the UK are really more frequent than you might think. I was shocked, actually, at the amount of sightings of black cats or big cats, should I say, that are actually seen in the UK. Now, where are they mostly seen? Are they mostly seen in the south, or is it like countrywide?
They're pretty much up and down the country, but the predominance of them is the southwest. And then you've got them going up Wiltshire, you've got them going up the west coast, and you've got them even over here in Yorkshire, up on the moors and stuff. You know, and there's been quite some recent sightings of some over here in Yorkshire. I'm trying to remember what the name of that cat was. No, I can't remember. Norfolk and Suffolk, they have the most.
About the Beast of Bodmin Moor. Is that the one?
Yeah, that was a famous one, wasn't it? The Beast of Bodmin.
That's down in Cornwall, but yeah, that's still about. But you know, what you got to remember is back in the 70s when they changed the laws for keeping dangerous animals, and people, you know, obviously couldn't have their pets destroyed. They released them into the wild, so you've got all manner of different types of big cats out there. So they're going to interbreed. So you're going to end up with ligers, and perhaps you're going to end up with the thundercats one day. They're going to inbreed and inbreed and inbreed, and then you're just going to see Mum Ra wandering across Dartmoor going, you know?
Well, that would be a sight to see, wouldn't it? Could you imagine?
Chitara and Lionel and Panther.
That would be a cosplay right there. Anyway, in 1760s, a guy called William Corbett, who was only a small boy then, saw a large cat at Waverley Abbey near Farnborough. And when he reported it, he was beaten. Would you believe that?
Oh my God.
That actually doesn't surprise me, because back then they would have been like, you know, you talking out of your bottom, young man, come here.
Yeah, he's probably beaten because they probably assumed he was lying.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You know? So I mean, going back in the day, I mean, our wildlife in the UK used to be a lot more diverse than it is today. I mean, there used to be bears and wolves and all sorts in the UK, which are now extinct, aren't they?
We had wolves up until the 16th century. And we, believe it or not, we used to have beavers, and I'm trying to keep this non-smutty. We had wild beavers in the UK, and now they've been sighted again. There's a pair of breeding beavers on the River Otter.
Well, they've reintroduced them, haven't they?
Well, no, these ones, they did in certain parts, but not the River Otter. They don't know how the hell they got there. They don't know where they escaped from or anything. But there's a pair of breeders. There's a pair of beavers down there, and they've got a little family, and because they set up trap cams and stuff to see it.
Yeah. I mean, I know in certain parts of Scotland, I know they were reintroducing them into the wild because they're really quite good for the ecology of an area. They become quite an integral part of the ecology. I mean, that has been seen when they reintroduced wolves into, was it Yellowstone Park? That was in America.
Timber wolves.
That wasn't in the UK, but they introduced them, and it actually improved the ecology of the environment. So they've started doing things like that in the UK, but we've got off topic a little bit. Anyway, as always, yeah, because we started talking about beavers. Now, now, in 1995, we mentioned the Beast of Bodmin Moor. Now, this was actually subject to a scientific investigation in 1995. Now, they found tracks, their livestock was killed, but they kind of had a limited investigation and found no evidence that the beast was actually there. But the locals are adamant that they are there.
Oh, it's definitely there.
I think it's one of those where you have to be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah. But there's been pictures and things of it, hasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, that's been photographed and everything, isn't it? I can't believe that in Hampshire there was a tiger scare in 2011, but it turned out to be a stuffed toy. I think that's hysterical.
I remember seeing that.
Someone in the countryside walking around with this huge stuffed toy, pretending like crawling around with this stuffed toy to freak people out.
They with marksmen in it for that.
I know, but can you imagine? That's quite funny. It's not funny. It wasted a lot of police time, and it was a very naughty thing to do, whoever did that. But that is quite funny. Can you imagine the talk at the police station afterwards, can't you?
Yeah.
All right, who's going to get Tigger a pint?
I wonder if it's their mascot in Hampshire.
That would be quite cool to think.
It would be cool, wouldn't it? Now, there was video footage of said, of a cat, a leopard in Stroud, apparently.
Yes, and the tail on that thing, just one thing I want to say, the tail on that is identical to the tail on the one myself and my daughter saw. Except
yours was completely black.
Well, yeah, but how that tail looks with that kink at the bottom and everything to this one.
It's crazy when you start looking at some of the various cases. Now, some animals have been killed. There was a Canadian lynx that was shot in Newton Abbey in Devon around 1903. I mean, that's going back a way now, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that apparently had been living in the area for some time because they did isotope evidence extracted from its carcass. God, they do go into this, don't they?
Yeah. Newton Abbot, yeah. I used to live near Newton Abbot.
Did you?
Yeah. Newton Abbot's on the way. You go through it on the way down to Paignton Zoo. Funnily enough, Paignton Zoo. There's big cats in there.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, I do think, like you said, the implementation of the Dangerous and Wild Animals Act in 1976, people regularly kept exotic pets like this in their homes, didn't they?
Yeah. And they were like part of the family, didn't attack anybody, and they didn't have the heart to have them put down when that all changed. So they, released them into the wild. And, I can understand why they did that. I'm not going to start a big debate on whether they should or whether they shouldn't have, but I completely understand why they did it. It was part of the family and they love them, But, you've got all these big cats wandering around because, there was pumas and tigers and lions and God knows, panthers and...
Did they cover monkeys? Because there's quite a few ghost stories regarding monkeys, isn't there?
I've heard
that.
Had
monkeys as in the home, Kaz.
Sorry? How did we get from black cats to monkeys?
Well, we're talking about the the Dangerous and Wild Animals Act. So I'm wondering if monkeys would come under that, like a chimpanzee or, because... Back in today, they regularly kept weird animals, didn't they, as like status symbols?
Yeah.
So I wonder if, at some point, somebody has released like a monkey into the wild. Because would that come under the Dangerous and Wild Animal Act? I don't know.
Thought so.
I think it would.
I would have thought it would, because they can be quite aggressive, can't they, chimpanzees?
Well, I was thinking more like baboons and stuff like that, but there are some reports of isolated places that apparently do have some kind of simian in them.
Some sort of what?
Simian, primate, ape.
Oh, right, I was going to say. You should have just said monkey, I would have understood what you're talking about.
Do you want me to do it with an Essex accent?
Yeah, go on then.
In some sort of woods, there happens to be a monkey.
Very good. I have to say, I think it was more London than Essex, but yeah, we'll go with it.
And all about the wild animals. Do you remember where I used to live in London? Do you remember all the
talking of wild animals?
Do you remember the parakeets?
Yes, I do. Carry on.
Well, there you go. There's lots of different rumours as to how all the parakeets got to be in London, but the main predominant one is some famous guy, I can't remember, in the 60s, released a pair out of his kitchen window in the 60s in central London, and that's why you've got them now in various parts of London and going up along the east coast, as far as I know. But definitely where I used to live in Ealing, there was loads and loads and loads of bright green parakeets. I used to feed them. They come and land on your windowsill.
Oh, how sweet.
They were really cool.
So
I miss hearing...
Have you got any stories, Kaz, in your local area?
No, not that I know of.
Probably about to hear a child get murdered by the sounds of it.
No, I haven't heard any stories locally.
There's supposed to be, is it Sheffield? Is it east of Sheffield? There's one of them. Hang on. Let me just have a very quick look. Talk amongst yourselves. Right,
That's
here we go.
with me, actually. Hang on.
Huddersfield. The Black Panther of Huddersfield. And
Mm-hmm.
you know that sighting that you were talking about, Kerry? Of the leopard? Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just reading it now. The wildcat of Warwickshire, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Is around 4 foot in length. That's right. And that tail is identical to the one that I saw, except on the one that we saw, it was a bit longer than that. But the same kink at the bottom, everything, and the back of that animal, its haunches and everything, is identical.
Mm-hmm.
That was no labradoodle we saw. That was definitely
It was a labradoodle.
It was definitely a big cat, because when it turned and looked at us, it had a feline face. It wasn't a dog's face.
Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, there is a rumour, and it is purely a rumour, that Mary Chipperfield of the famous Chipperfield Circus actually released 3 pumas, which included a breeding pair, into the wild when her zoo closed down in 1978. The family do strenuously deny that. I would like to add that in. But, again, if it comes under this Dangerous Animals Act, you can understand...
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they've got this connection with these animals. They're not going to just have them put down. And if they can't get the necessary legislation in place, what are they supposed to do with them? You know?
Exactly.
I mean, or donate them to a zoo. But then there have been escapes from zoos with cats.
Monkey World had some monkeys escape from Monkey World in Dorchester.
Can you imagine? I have to say, if you are an animal in a zoo and then you get that, like you do get free, it must be like party time. Woo!
I was going to say,
we're at it!
Exactly. It's crunchy, that Friday feeling time. Definitely. They'd be like, yeah, stuff you!
And
Up yours,
imagine trying to
run away.
I mean, particularly like when you think, I mean, we're back onto monkey. I don't know why I keep going back to monkeys, but you know, like
It's
if you
because
think
we've
of
got children, that's why.
probably, yeah. You know, think particularly some of the tiny, you know, like the tiny little monkey things.
Squirrel monkeys. Spider monkeys.
Well, no, there's even smaller ones than that, isn't there?
Lemurs.
No, smaller. Can't think of their names off the top of my head.
Well, those little tiny things that grip your little finger.
Yeah, they're like teeny tiny. You imagine trying to find one of them in the wild. You're not gonna, are you? They look like Gizmo. Oh, I can't remember the names. Tamarans?
Tamarin monkeys, yes.
Yeah,
tamarin.
they're tiny, aren't they? You imagine one of them getting, you know, and also, when you think of some of the markings on the cats, going back to cats, because that's what we're supposed to be talking about, because I keep going to monkeys. I don't know why I keep going to monkeys, but we go, well, I don't know.
It's this show.
Can you imagine, like, trying to find one of those, because the markings on them, they kind of blend in.
Well, things like leopards and stuff like that, if you, especially in the autumn, if you've got you know, a field full of corn and stuff like that, and they're in the middle of that, you ain't gonna know that's there.
No, they're really good at camouflage, aren't they? I mean, they're not quite the chameleon side, but you know, their markings do sort of like fit in with our environment quite nicely.
Well, they do, and they also hide behind trees. They stand on their back legs and hide behind trees, and they're going, "Oh, I hope he can't see me." And also, with reports of you know if it's a leopard and not anything else. Leopards are the only animals that drag their prey up into the tree to let the meat hang for a bit.
That is the one thing I would say. So when the livestock has been attacked, it hasn't been eaten. It's just sort of had its throat ripped out. So That's my only query on this one.
There has been some found up in trees, though. There's not a lot, but there's been a few found stuffed up in the trees.
Which would indicate leopard.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that in Somerset, it's definitely a leopard, because that's what I saw, the black one. And there's definitely like, American mountain lion?
The
one of those.
sandy-coloured one.
Yeah, there's one of those there as well, because it's not just myself. Everybody down where I used to live has seen that. And myself and my other daughter Taylor, we've seen it drinking from a brook when you go up through a place called Yarkham. Well known. And when I spoke to the police about it, because the black cat one, I went straight down to just inform them that, you know, it's not to terrorise or scaremonger, just, there's black cat wandering about. They're like, oh yeah, we know all about that. You know, they've got a book that they keep on it and they write all the sightings in. And, you know, it's like, I wasn't the first person that day. They'd had quite a lot of previous sightings, and they have them every month. You know, they're all well aware of it, and they just leave it alone. And it's like I've said, leave them alone. Don't go near them. Don't go puss, because
well, yeah, they're not going to come up and give you a rub, are they? Talking of which, I'll tell you a funny story. I was waiting for a friend on a street corner.
Really? Okay.
I know. That sounded bad in my head before it even came out my mouth, so I don't know why I followed through with that thought. I was waiting for my friend anyway on the road, and she'd gone to pick somebody up or whatever it was. Anyway, this great big ginger cat came on and, you know, they do the rubbing on the leg thing, yeah? Now, I can't touch cats because I get allergic, so if I touch a cat and then, like, you know, touch your face or your eyes, it come up in hives and my eyes decide to puff up and quite allergic, right? And I can live with one, but I can't have it touching my face, right? So anyway, so I'm going, I can't touch it. I'm talking to the cat. I'm going, I can't touch you because, like, you know, I'm allergic. Thinking this cat will understand, you know, as cats are supposed to. Yeah. Anyway, it then just attacked my legs. And I had massive scratch marks all down my legs. When my friend pulled up, I'm like literally bleeding from these scratches. She went, you were just stood there on the corner. What the hell happened? I got attacked by this cat. And she was like, joking. And I had great big claw marks all the way down my leg from this blinking cat.
And that's your excuse and you're going to stick to it?
No, seriously, that's exactly what had happened.
See, this is why I'm glad I got a metal leg.
Honestly, it really wasn't. I wasn't happy with the cat. Anyway, every week there is one big oh God, I've got black on the brain. One big cat sighting is reported to the police every single week in the. Did
you just say big black cat?
No, I said.
You said big black cat.
I meant to go big cat, but I added a black in there, and I say I've got black on the brain. I have no idea why.
We are not doing a show about BBCs. I've told you that before.
Oh no, I've got it in the brain. Big cat sightings. There's one big cat sighting every single week reported to the police in the UK. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, there's I think it was January this year alone. The ones up around Yorkshire, I think there was 50 sightings in just January alone, and up to now, there's oh cross, what was that? I think it was getting on to like 100 sightings. I went onto because if you can go onto the National Big Cat site, and it'll tell you all the sightings, all the areas, all the latest sightings, everything. It's actually quite interesting.
Now, there's a well-known expert in the field in cryptozoology or Fortean zoology, named a guy named Jonathan Downes. I've known him. I don't know him. I know him. I know of him. I know of him? That's probably better. Now, he said that the frequency of sightings, long after it became illegal to domesticate big cats, proved that they are breeding in the wild, which kind of makes sense because there aren't any more people importing big cats as pets. So from the 1970s, and we're still getting sightings to this day, that kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, and also I like what he says about there's been occasional sightings of females with cubs. For a start, awesome. Secondly, I'd love to see that.
Could you imagine that, Kaz?
Do you know what? That worries me.
Why?
Thought all these big cats roaming at I don't like the idea of that.
Well, it's only in the deepest, darkest parts of the UK. I know you're. Well,
For
I know
now.
you're. Well, I know you're small enough. They might mistake you for a haggis, but you'll be all right.
I'm not even going to go down that thought path. That's a comedy sketch right there waiting, isn't it?
I'll tell you what I have got
Who
for you.
was it that took... There was a famous guy who took a bunch of Americans out to go haggis hunting in Scotland.
Oh, God, yes. He completely mugged them off. He convinced them that haggises were real and they were these small creatures, yes.
Yeah, oh, God, that's going to bug me now.
Isn't it the same bloke who had something to do with trying to flog the London Bridge to the Americans?
I can't remember. But I know that there was a fame... Anyway, we've gone completely off topic with that one, haven't we?
A story for you, a newish story from this year about a big cat sighting. And it raced a car.
Really?
When a driver was heading home to Stroud late at night past a pub immortalised in literature, the last thing she expected to see was a big cat racing alongside her car. But it's just before Christmas, just gone. That's what this woman says she saw as she passed a Woolpack Inn in Slad just before Christmas. Suspected sightings of the creatures are far and few between, but Stroud is something of a hotspot, and she cannot explain what she saw. I never knew there was any in Stroud. And this is her statement. I was driving from Oxford to Stroud on Friday, December 15th, and was passing through Slad at about 11:30 p.m. A little after I passed the Woolpack pub along the road into Stroud, in my headlights, I saw something shoot out into the road from the valley on the left, and I thought that was odd, says the Stroud woman, 31, who does not wish to be named. As I approached, the creature continued across the road, started sprinting in the same direction of travel as myself, and I thought, come on, Linford, let's have it. I was driving about 40 miles an hour, and it was bounding along the verge on the right-hand side, parallel to my car. Naturally, I slowed a little, because I thought I don't mind coming in second place, but it was keeping up with my vehicle. After following it for 2 or 3 minutes, it shot up into the fields above the road. It was not a huge creature, very lean, perhaps the size of a small Labrador, but the way it ran was completely different to any domestic cat I've ever seen, and he wouldn't call Tiddles neither. Its tail was also low and long, and it was jet black, with glossy, short, dense coat, and had a small head. She contacted Gloucestershire big cat tracker Frank Tunbridge, who documents sightings across the country and beyond. And although sightings are rare, there have been many in and around Stroud, particularly since deer carcasses in Woodchester and Dursley were tested for big cat DNA in 2012. So there you go. Found some ripped up deer and it had big cat DNA in it.
Yeah.
And what she's just described is basically what myself and my daughter saw, the first one.
Yeah. It's quite crazy, actually, when you start looking at it, isn't it?
God, yeah. There was a woman in London, on the outskirts of London, who saw a big cat, like a leopard, eating a domestic cat in the garden.
Oh, my goodness.
That was in September 17, and it was actually in the Daily Express, because she took photos of it.
My word.
Yeah, I don't want to look at that because I like cats. So.
Yeah. Can you imagine, like, looking out your window and just seeing it in your garden?
You'd be like, no! Tiddles!
I'm like, oh my God! Oh my God!
And there's sightings in Wales, in Llandaff Fields, near Cardiff. There was big sightings of panthers in 2017. And they've started up their own big cat society down there because of this, because they keep being seen. Basically, if these things are breeding, they're going to come up, and you're going to see more and more and more. It might even get to the point where there has to be a bit of culling going on, but for the moment, they're safe. But I think if they keep breeding,
although they're sighted or seem to be sighted quite often, I think they're safe at the moment if they are out there, because there's not enough. And they're not terrorising a population, are they, of a village or something? If it got to that point, then yeah. But I don't think they could breed to that level. I mean, the interbreeding as well that must be going on. Surely.
So you're going to have derp cats.
You can have.
Oh my God! Meow, meow. derp cats. McGurd, you know.
So,
Wasted. Absolutely wasted.
that
on
was
you.
completely wasted. There was a tumbleweed moment where my brain was like, what the hell is he talking? It's a bit like the orca thing with the whale thing last week. I was like, what? He's gone off on a tangent. So anyway.
Free Willy.
I know. Free willing, is what I said. So, anyway, we won't rehash old shows, eh, Kaz?
Kaz, what do you think about wild haggises? All right, well, seeing as you're our Scottish correspondent, what about sightings up in your original neck of the woods? Have there been any up there?
Probably. Give me a minute. The thing is,
I know you've got the Scottish wildcat up there.
I'm pretty sure if it is, it's going to be up near borders, isn't it?
It'll be near the Highlands, isn't it?
Yeah, it's near the Highlands and the borders, you would get that.
Because I know.
I'm trying to find it.
Well, there was also, if I remember rightly, didn't they're doing a trial release lynx up there? Was it lynx? I think it was a lynx.
I know, and beavers as well. I know they've definitely done that with beavers, but wasn't the lynx? Is it the Lynx Society wanted to reintroduce the lynx because they were hunted into extinction, weren't they, back into deer?
Yeah.
And when you think about the wildlife that roam around up in the Highlands, quite naturally, like the reindeer and there's my wild beast of a dog is well on the roam down here.
We can hear.
Sorry?
We can hear.
I know, his little claws are tapping away on the grass.
Oh my God, I've just got you an alien link.
Oh no. Oh, no.
All right, here you go. This is how my mind works. If these things keep into breeding and they eventually turn into the Thundercats, boom, aliens. There you go.
Jesus, Kaz. What? Honestly, there are, on a Friday, there's many what moments I do. I go, what?
Do you know what? I am literally...
Thundercat.
I'm going to make it my mission, my own personal mission, to come up with a show that you cannot link to aliens.
I think that's both of our personal missions, guys. We've not managed it yet. We really haven't managed it yet, though, have we?
Oh, I'm going to try.
As I said in my blog, I don't think every single thing that happens is a but I do like just finding it a link, just because I know you. I can see you're going to roll your eyes, and in my head I hear it going, "Oh my God!" That is my thing. I have to do that.
I think all of our listeners go, "Yes, he's found an alien link," whereas me and Kaz are going, "Oh God, he's found an alien link."
Enough, in America in the 70s, there were reports of there'd been sightings of lights in the sky and stuff. There was a flurry of animal attacks, and it was some kind of feline. And there was, and this is on the fringe side of it. This is not anything I personally believe in, but on the fringe side of it, they thought that aliens had come down with basically, Predator when they come down hunting in the movies. But they were hunting with their weirdy, beardy, big cat things. Because ever since those sightings of all the lights and UFOs, and then the huge cats ripping things apart in America, there's not been anything since. So yeah.
Well, animal mutilation is a whole different topic, and really does go into the realms of stretching. Not stretching the imagination, because there's a lot of research that's been done on that. But that is a whole different topic for a show. So anyway,
I'll say that would be a new show.
Let's leave the big black cats alone now.
Big black cats. You've got a thing about big black on your brain, haven't you?
Mate, now we're going to go into some English folklore. Let's have a look at the Black Shuck. This is a massive thing in English folklore. Now, the Black Shuck is otherwise known as the Old Shuck or Old Shock, or simply as a Shuck, and is a legendary ghostly black dog. So we're going from cats to dogs on this one. But again, huge mythology that surrounds this particular topic.
Well, it's like if you go to the southwest, the West Country, the amount of pubs down there called the Black Dog Inn, the Black Dog, and this, that, and the other, and shops and this, that, and the other. It's predominant, especially in the West Country.
Yeah, I mean, I did a show with Mark Norman on this particular topic a little while ago. He's an absolute authority.
We did one before as well. I'm sure we've done one about black dogs, not black shucks, but black dogs. I'm sure I remember us doing a show.
We might have mentioned it. I don't think we've done a whole show on it, to be fair. I think we might have covered it when we was talking about, when we was down in Somerset. This is
yeah.
When we first started, yes. we were talking about it, weren't we?
When you were stuck in the gemstone shop.
I wasn't stuck in there. I was willingly kept there by myself.
In the crystal shop.
In the crystal shop. They were all trying to find a ghost walk, and there was me going, I'm just going to pop in this shop, and 3 hours later they came back and I was still in the shop. Anyway, let's have a look at this Black Shuck. Now, according to folklore, the beast varies in size and stature, from that of being a large dog to being the size of a calf or even the size of a horse. Now, that's big.
Well, I'm thinking Great Dane.
I'm thinking bigger than a Great Dane if it's the size of a horse.
I'm thinking of He-Man's Thundercat. Yes, He-Man's cat. He-Man's cat that he rode into battle. Battle cat, that was it.
See, there was a link between the two topics.
Yeah, there you go. Thundercat, yes.
Oh, dear.
I shall call him Shadowfax.
It's even recorded as having appeared headless and at other times as floating on a carpet of mist.
That floating on the carpet of mist actually comes from Cornwall.
Does it?
It's a West Country one. That if you look into the sightings down in Cornwall, you do get the odd reports of the mist thing in the southwest. But if you keep on going down and go down towards Lisgard and all that lot, you will see most of the reports there are all to do with it being on mist. So it's all it. I can only assume that the mist must come from, with it being near the coast, to see mist rolling in, and that's when they see the animal. So there you go.
Right. Kaz, do you want to read us the bit from W.A. Dutt from his 1901 Highways and Byways of East Anglia?
What?
Right. Right, give me 2 seconds. I'm just finding it.
Oh! At the top. I put it on there 3 times for you.
I was going to say, it's in there 3 times. Mark liked this one.
Yeah.
Bloody copy and paste, I tell you.
What happened exactly? I'm not. Do you know what? Tell me later. Just tell me later.
Every time I press copy,
right, basically,
probably not.
He takes the form of a huge black dog and prowls along dark lanes and lonesome footpaths where, although his howling makes the hearer's blood run cold, his footfalls make no sound. How is that possible?
Well, if they've got pads, I mean, they walk on their pads, don't they? And it's quite. If he's walking in the field, you ain't going to hear him.
You may know him at once should you see him by his fiery eye. He has but one, and that, like the Cyclops, is in the middle of his head.
Never heard that about a black dog before now.
I've heard about the headless ones, and I've heard about the normally 2 eyes, but not a Cyclops dog.
No, same here.
But such an encounter might bring you the worst of luck. It is even said that to meet him is to be warned that your death will occur before the end of the year.
Nice.
I've heard that.
To be honest with you, I think if I came across something like that, you'd probably have a heart attack anyway, wouldn't you? Seriously.
What advice did they give you for if you should see him?
So you will do well to shut your eyes if you hear him howling. Shut them even if you're uncertain whether it is the dog fiend or the voice of the wind that you hear.
I would have thought if you could hear him, I'd plug your ears up as well.
Yeah. Should you never set eyes on a Norfolk snarl yow, you may perhaps doubt his existence. Like all other learned folks tell us that his story is nothing but the old Scandinavian myth of the Black Hound of Odin, brought to us by the Vikings who long ago settled down on the Norfolk coast. It is Dutt's description which gave rise to one persona for Black Shuck as Old Snarlyow. In the context of his description is a comparative to Frederick Marrat's 1837 novel Snarlyow or the Dog Fiend, which tells the tale of the troublesome ship's dog.
Sounds like you got problems with your own there somewhere. Somebody's got problems with a dog.
I ain't got a dog, so it ain't me.
See, I heard a tale about the Black Shucks, whereas if it trod on like concrete, it would leave its footprints in the concrete. Or is that a different dog completely? Because that's where they got the name the Devil Dog, didn't it? Because I've definitely heard the tale of the... Yeah, I've heard the forewarning of death.
Yeah, but there's a difference between Black Shuck and black dogs, because it all depends on which part of the country, isn't it? Because Black Shuck is a very, very oldie worldy word, but it's black dog. It gets changed to black dog as you go across and up the country.
Yeah. I mean, I've also heard that they can help travellers
find
their way home, and if you're a woman on your own, it has been known to walk you home. Never had that myself. I would just like to add, I know I don't live in this particular area, but when I've walked home on my own, the most I've had is a bat.
Or a ginger cat.
Oh no, that was during the day. No, the bat was like at dusk time, and it kept flying around, not around my head, not that close, but it kept flying over my head. And I don't mind bats, but when they get a bit close, I sort of start running and going bat, which kind of is what happened. Yeah, it's like, oh my god, there's a bat following me. But I've never had a black dog. I'd like a dog. Though.
You've got one.
Yeah, but not a black one, is it? Well, he's kind of black.
We've got a black one here. We've got two black ones here. But to be absolutely honest, I wouldn't say the mad pug of doom is going to be do it.
No, it's not really a mad pug of doom, is it?
There's another bit of information for you. I didn't put it in any of the reports, but it's with Cornwall especially. When you had the pirates come ashore back in between 14th and 17th centuries, a lot of them had massive, dirty, great big Great Danes. For when they were in Jamaicas and that, for hunting, used in hunting parties. And when they were seen, coming ashore over here, they would very often, let their Great Danes come with them, because that they would be they wouldn't go for the locals, but it would be very standoffish and growly, barky. Don't you come near me, or I'll tear your what's off. So maybe that's to do with it as well.
Because they are huge. I mean, I have to say, when you get up close and personal with a Great Dane, they are enormous. And,
gotcha.
If you was a pirate and you wanted to use them in that way to scare people off, it wouldn't take a lot to black with a bit of soot, would it?
Exactly.
Black their coats down and sort of like set them free, as it were, to sort of like scare a few people away that maybe were in the local. So you can sort of see how these things could possibly. I mean, there's a dog that's even bigger than that, isn't there? It looks like it's got like this really furry thing.
Is that Chinese one?
It's absolutely enormous.
Himalayan Mastiff or whatever it's called.
I mean, I don't suppose they were around, but when you look at those sized dogs, it's a bit like the fish when you go fishing. It was this big, when in actual fact it was a minnow. You know what I mean? You go, I caught a massive fish. So if you're scared, if you're like, I don't know, traversing the lanes at night on your way home and this great big dog come out the undergrowth at you, by the time you got to the pub, this dog is like 3 times the size of what the dog actually was. You know what I mean? So could it be that's the caused the rumour, should we say?
I certainly think that some of them, especially in the West Country, may very well have come from pirates coming ashore and having their dogs with them. But I can definitely say, in the case of myself and my kids, when we've seen that one that came across the road, it definitely was a very big feline and was definitely not a domestic one. Because I tell you what, I wouldn't have got out of the car and gone with a tin of kitty cat. Oh, look, my hand's gone. Now,
it's the Black Shuck is definitely steeped more in the folklore and mythology side of things, and is also linked to the Fae, isn't it?
That's right. It comes through on the fairy circle sometimes as well.
Yeah. When we look at Dr. Simon Sherwood, doctor, everybody, love a doctor, suggests that the earliest surviving description of these hounds It was actually an incident in Peterborough Abbey that was recorded in 1127. Now, this account also appears to describe the Europe-wide phenomenon of a wild hunt.
The wild hunt, yes.
Yes.
Of course, yes.
Exactly.
The wild hunt.
And I'm going to read this bit. Let no one be surprised at the truth of what we are about to relate, for it was common knowledge throughout the whole country that immediately after Abbot Henry of Poitou arrival, his arrival at Peterborough Abbey, it was the Sunday when they sang Exsurge Quarry. Many men both saw and heard a great number of huntsmen hunting. The huntsmen were black, huge and hideous, and rode on black horses and on black he-goats, and their hounds were jet black with eyes like saucers and horrible. This was seen in the very deer park of the town of Peterborough, and in all the woods that stretched from that same town to Lincolnshire, Stamford, and in the night the monks heard them sounding and winding their horns. Reliable witnesses who kept watch in the night declared that there might well have been as many as 20 or 30 of them winding their horns as near they could tell. Now this was seen and heard from the time of his arrival all through Lent and right up to Easter.
Mm-hmm. That's not good, especially if you got the wild hunt after you, because that's you've been marked for death and you have done something particularly bad, and they're after your soul as well.
Wow, could you? That must be sorry.
That must be sorry.
No, that must be scary. Sorry. Scary, sorry, similar word, isn't it? You know.
I would like to hear it. Like, do you know what? That's a good idea for a show one day. The Wild Hunt.
It is, because that's again full of mythology. We've touched on it before in previous shows, but it comes up time and time again, doesn't it? The Wild Hunt, but it's folklore. That's all to do with folklore, isn't it?
Well, yeah, exactly. But again, it comes down to. Do you remember when we spoke about the Fae people and the Tuatha and the people from before and precursors? And well, they're supposed to be there's one of the legends are they mop up the survivors of wars. Another ones say it is the basically the devil's hunt. If you are damned and you're cursed, then they will be sent after you. But you have to have done something really, really bad to get the wild hunt after you, because they do not stop. And there's been so many legends about those dogs being used in a hunt, not particularly the wild hunt, but any hunt, and it always concerns demons and this, that, and the other.
That's, I think, though, because of the fear they invoke within a person, they're automatically assumed to be evil, and that's not necessarily the case. I think it's so out of your experience, you can't equate it to anything. And also, we've talked about the feeling of oppression and how ominous it feels in regards to time slips, when we've looked into time slips. If it is a cross-dimensional thing, which we've talked about, if you think about the ladies that time slipped in Versailles, one of the things they reported was the ominous feeling and the changing atmosphere. If you're walking in the woods of a night, for whatever reason, as you do, you have that experience, that feeling of ominous and change of atmosphere, and then you see something like that, that's going to be terrifying. So your natural reaction is that it's evil, particularly going back in the day. This particular incident we're talking about, this Peterborough Abbey one, was back in 1127. So they haven't got that knowledge base, because they're religious. They're coming from a religious perspective as well. Their belief system is very religious back then.
There's another thing also back then about poachers. Where we get the Halloween lanterns. They come from the jack-o'-lanterns that slaves would use when they were escaping. Well, there was also a thing over here. Poachers would occasionally, when they went out with their dogs, they'd take big dogs and they would tie like a leather thing to their body, and it had things that went up to the head and had small red things with candles in, so that when they were going through the woods, all you would see is the outline of a big black dog with red eyes, what looks like red eyes.
Oh gosh.
So there's also that as well, and that was quite often used, but it was used a lot more up in Nottingham. But yeah, there's the legends of that as well.
Okay, so one of the most notable reports of a Black Shuck is actually of an appearance at the churches of Bungay and Blythburgh in Suffolk.
Blythburgh.
This actually happened in Suffolk, so that's like my neck of the woods-ish. Still quite a way, but you know. Now this happened in August in 1577. And this Black Shuck is said to have burst through the church doors.
Oh, this one, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
to a clap of thunder. Now, allegedly, he ran up the nave, past a large congregation, killing a man and a boy. And, gosh, this is quite a entrance, should we say?
I remember reading about this when I was a kid.
And the church steeple collapsed through the roof. As the dog left, he left scorch marks on the north door, which apparently can be seen at the church to this day. Now, the encounter on the same day at Bungay was described in A Strange and Terrible Wonder by the Reverend Abraham Fleming in 1577. Oh, cough, cough.
Do you want me to read this out?
Or you read this bit out while I mute myself and have a coughing fit.
I was going to say, all right, here we go. I will read this out as it is done in the... You didn't mute yourself, did you, love? In the Old English. This black dog, or the devil, is such a lioness. God he knoweth all who worketh all, working all along the body of the church with great swiftness and incredible haste among the people in a visible form. They tell you what, the spelling's terrible back then. And shape passed between two persons as they were kneeling upon their knees and occupied in prayer, as it seemed. He wrung their necks on them both at one instant clean backward, insomuch that even at a moment where they kneeled, they strangely died.
They died.
How can a dog wring your neck?
Oh, no idea, but he managed that. They must have just grabbed him by the throat. But well, I mean, back then though, wasn't rabies in the country?
It was, but the rabies here, if I remember, was caused by the bats, and that's what originally started over here. But also, this story here, I remember reading about this when I was young and looking into it. And yes, the dog was supposed to have entered with a clap of thunder, but lightning actually hit the steeple, and that's why it collapsed and came down.
Gosh, could you imagine the whole atmosphere though? So you've got a massive belief system situation going on here because again, it's a church thing, right? If it's consecrated ground, it's a church, and they're saying that this was a devil that entered, then that would sort of like, I didn't think they could, for a start. It obviously was a real thing that killed two people.
Personally, think about it, right? You've got that storm going on, and back then, you know, the locals went to the safest place possible, which was the church. And say one of them, say one of them's dog, big dog, was out, scared witless, had run off when the thunder went, and then came back to the church because he knew that's where his owner was. He could smell his owner, and just happened to walk through the door as a thunderclap went off. If that happened, and you got lightning flaring up and this, that, and the other, and you got terrified people in the church, and you got to remember this was back in the 15th century, then somebody's big dog walking through the church, entering it to a clap of thunder, bolt of lightning striking the steeple and making that collapse, two people who were kneeling down, scared, witless, praying, they could have just had heart attacks and dropped down dead once that dog walked in.
Or the dog ran in a frenzy and attacked them.
Yeah, and he strangled them with his tail.
Because he was so scared.
Yeah, that's very possible, yeah.
You know, I mean, so when you sort of like look at that, the interpretation of events, which might be very coincidental, like the thunderstorm hit at that particular time, the steeple got hit by lightning, you know, when you start looking at that, and also looking at the time span, there was an ongoing Reformation at the time, so there would have been a lot of fear within a community.
Yeah.
You know, when you start looking at stuff like that, you start breaking it down and you start adding in logical, possible explanations as to what happened that night, the interpretation was this, devil, hellish monster, came in and, and it builds up into a picture of, it kind of did happen like that, but it wasn't quite that interpretation of how that happened,
Well, they were all God-fearing back then as well, weren't they?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you guys in the chat room think? Let us know.
Well, we shall see. We shall definitely see what they say. Now...
But, yes.
Okay. I mean, the black dog thing, like you said right at the top of it, there's the black dog thing. There's, in the actual town of Bungie, there's the black dog is like now become almost infamous, hasn't it?
That's right, yeah, it's everywhere. It's on churches, taverns, pubs, cafes, what do you call them, knick-knack shops, everything.
Yeah, it is. It's all over the place. Now, a 7 foot tall, I love this. This is sensationalism.
That's what I wanted to get to, yeah.
Sensationalism at its height. 7 foot tall hellhound skeleton unearthed near ancient monastery in UK. That was the headline.
This came from the Telegraph.
That is a headline and a half. I have to say, you've got to admire these journalists. So talk to me a little bit about this hellhound skeleton that's been found near the ancient monastery.
Basically, the ancient monastery. He says, here we go. Right. Over 500 years after legends talked about the hellhound, archaeologists seem to have discovered the remains of the Black Shuck in the ruins of Leiston Abbey in Suffolk. In a nameless grave 30 inches deep among several pieces of pottery surrounding the body. According to initial calculations, the remains belong to a male dog standing at least 7 foot tall in height and weighing around 200 pounds. And when they originally opened it, the ladies looked in and went, "Oh, that's a male dog." It is possible that these remains belong to the legendary terror-bring that caused havoc among the population of East Anglia. What do you think? The story of Black Shuck has to have originated from somewhere, and who knows, have originated from a dog which was buried here. Brendan Wilkins, who was the project director of Dig Ventures, is quoted, "It is still an enigma why the remains of the feared Black Shuck rest under holy ground." See, that's odd as well. Despite all the atrocities the monster dog had committed in the past. Local folklore states that the Black Shuck made its presence during a brutal storm, as we've already talked about.
Yeah.
And
that's an automatic assumption because that's in the local area.
Yeah.
They find this skeleton and skeleton. That's another word I can't say properly, everybody. I would just like to point that out.
Skellington is Jack Skellington from Nightmare Before Christmas.
I'm still going to go with it. Hashtag don't care. Hashtag just saying. So we're going to go with Skellington because that's how I say it. Same as Hospital and the Alpaca Mountains. I'm getting a little dictionary going on about the Kerryisms.
A guide to Kerry speech and how to interpret it.
Exactly.
An interpreter's guide to Kerry speak.
I should publish that. I really should. I think that would be a hit. Anyway, back to story. It is a leap of assumption that the dog in the story is the dog that they found buried. It could just be a loved pet, a big loved pet, but a big
And you probably heard ours going off in the background there as well.
Yeah. Exactly.
I personally think, I mean, what you guys in the chat room and out there listening to us can't see is we're looking at the picture of the remains that were found, and I've got to say, that's a bloody great big dog. That is a chuffing great big dog that they dug up. But the fact that he was on consecrated ground, I know that a lot of abbeys and stuff like that, they used to have animals like cats and dogs because you'd have the cats to keep away the rats and the mice, and you had the dogs to keep away unwanted visitors. So I don't see why it goes out of the realms of possibility that they might have had a sodding great big Great Dane who was their guard dog, and he was so nice to them, beloved, they would have buried him there.
Or if they did hunt down said Black Shuck, managed to kill it, isn't there the legend that if it's buried on consecrated ground, it would stop them from haunting because it's evil, it's now encased in the good stuff. The good stuff. Technical terms, everybody. The good stuff.
Well, just reading this, it says radiocarbon testing seems to indicate that the remains of the beast correspond to the time when the Black Shuck was terrorizing the population of East Anglia. So I reckon, possibly, maybe somebody's dog did escape and lived in the wild for a bit, and it may have attacked some people. But it seems to me that back then you'd have a crowd and they would go after said thing because somebody says to do so. So it looks like the poor dog was killed by a mob and then buried there.
Well, it's hardly a surprise. We know how mob mentality can work sometimes.
Look at the poll tax riots. There you go.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, we're running over, so we need to wrap up. Wrap it
up.
Okay. Unfortunately,
right,
we're running over on showtime as always. Now, before we go, everybody, check out our brand spanking new website, Parasearchradio.com. Don't forget to pop over to the brand new Parasearch Radio YouTube channel. Like, click, comment and subscribe. It's my favourite saying at the moment. Don't forget to click that subscribe button, and if you like what we do here on Parasearch, tell your friends about us. Help us spread the word. This is your paranormal radio show channel, should we say. Ta-da.
Yes.
Anyway, it is. On Sunday evening, we have got in the studio on the Spirit Dimension, myself and Ashley Nib are interviewing a Dr. T. Palmer. Now, he is looking at remote viewing in regards to healing methods and experiences. Fascinating guy. He also looks at earthbound spirits in regards to hospitals. Sorry, everybody. I'm awful. Honestly, you'd think I was a little bit stupid some of the way I say words, but I'm not.
Well, I wouldn't like to say.
I know. Like I say, they're Kerryisms. I think you guys all know that anyway.
Yes, I think we'll use it as a Canveyism. Canvey Islandism.
It's a Canvey Islandism. So check us out 9 p.m. on Sunday evening for the Spirit Dimension show with real life doctor in the house, talking about serious research.
Doctor who?
Real life doctor in the house. Doctor in the house. Great TV, great films, by the way, those. Doctor in the house. Anyway, changing the topic. What am I talking about now? Oh, yes. Wrapping the show up. We're wrapping the show. Hope you enjoyed tonight's show. Mark, you always put me off right at the end of the show. You managed to get through a whole show without the scream.
No, I did say aliens.
You didn't say it like that.
No, but I just did then. Oh, before I forget, my first blog's going to be going up on the website as well, isn't it? It
is. Check that out over the weekend. Mark's very first blog will be going up onto Parasearchradio.com. As soon as it's up, I will be sharing that out because it was a great little blog that Mark's done. Next week on the Dark Mirror Paranormal show, we are talking all about indigo children.
And that is something that I have to confess, I know very little about. So
I'm not a great knowledgeable on that one, so we're going to have to go away and do a bit of research on indigo children. But that's a term that's becoming, in fact, crystal children, indigo children, terms that are starting to pop up time and time again when I'm talking to people in the spiritual realm. So that's going to be fascinating to do a show on. Monday, as always, I will be doing a live Facebook on the Parasearch Radio group page, so don't forget to check that out. But I will see you all here 9 p.m. Sunday. And on that note, we bid you a very good night.
I shall say good night and aliens, and I will say good night on Kaz's behalf because she had to run off to do something. So thank you very much for listening, and let us know what you think of the shows.
Good night.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.